Roots and Roots. I'm part of the team, Helen, who's just been speaking. I work for the same organisation. We're 9 venues across Tyne and Wear. And I worked in South Tyneside. We've got 2 venues in South Tyneside, South Shields Museum and Art Gallery and Arbea Roman Fort. And I worked with South Shields Museum and Art Gallery on its Esme Fairbairn Collections Fund managed through the Museums Association project. And it was a continuation of work that we've been doing around decolonisation. Helen and the team that she works with at Discover Museum had done some great groundwork on exchange, working predominantly with African and Caribbean communities that are based in the northeast around the maritime collections, and we wanted to extend that really great work. Theirs had been a community-led project as well, and we wanted to carry that on, so we got 2 years of funding. The first year was to work with South Tyneside on their collections, and the second year that I'm in now is to work with the Great North Museum Hancock around a permanent change in their galleries. So I'll just move on. Slide doesn't seem to want to move on, just bear with me. There we go. So this is my group, and I can't emphasize how important it is to spend a long enough amount of time actually making connections with the community. We decided to work with the Bangladeshi community in South Tyneside because next to the Yemeni community, they're the largest minority community, for want of a better word, in South Tyneside, and have a really strong presence in South Tyneside. So I decided to work with those, but I worked really closely with grassroots organisations to make sure that we targeted a broad range of people from that community and not just the elders or the people that tended to work with outside groups more regularly. And we got a really great range of people who recruited into the steering group, from students to housewives to journalists to a pharmacist. So it's a really broad range of people. As I said, they were mainly from the Bangladeshi community, apart from on the bottom right, Luffy was a filmmaker who was studying at Sunderland University, and she's from Malaysia. So this is the VIP opening of the exhibition. As I said, it was all community led. So I worked for a considerable amount of time with the group, deciding what their creative output was going to be. It wasn't necessarily going to be an exhibition, but they decided that they wanted to do a call out to their community to get a range of objects that help to tell the story of the community's journey to South Tyneside and their history in South Tyneside. They've been quite established for about 80 years in South Tyneside and have come to South Tyneside for a variety of reasons. So we wanted to explore that. I think Helen touched on this a little bit about getting people to understand about donating objects or loaning objects to exhibitions, and also even understanding about why we collect things and that objects can tell a story. It took us quite a while to get that idea over, not only to the community group, but for them to help spread that to their community in order to loan the objects to us. You know, and again, I think that grassroots work I did about, like, you know, establishing a presence in the community, like people got to know me. I did a lot of outreach work and tried to bring groups in, so people sort of had more of a connection with the museum. I think it was really, really important to do all that groundwork first. If we'd have just done a call out for objects, we would have probably got very little back. I also had to do a lot of face-to-face work and work with my group to to identify stories and then find an object as well. Sometimes it wasn't as simple as objects just being donated to us. It was the stories we had first, and to then match an object to that. Because of the way people don't always have an object that they want to donate that has a story with it. We kind of had to work the other way around, if you know what I mean. So this is the exhibition, and as I said, it was all community led, so the group decided on how it was displayed. They decided the objects that were going in the exhibition and where they would be displayed, you can't see it as much from this, but the exhibition looked very different from a sort of conventional museum exhibition. I'm going to go into pick out some of the objects. We had over 40 objects, so I can't go through all of them, but I will mention a few of them. The Jamdani sari, which has been donated permanently to South Shields Museum collections, was one that was donated by one of the steering group. They wanted very much to. That was the other issue that we had, was that sometimes there were a lot of objects that were donated that were great in terms of telling the heritage of the Bangladeshi community, but not so much their story in South Tyneside. But we felt that this was appropriate because it was donated by a member of the group, and it was to talk about like I guess the stereotype nowadays around fast fashion in Bangladesh, as opposed to the really beautiful skills in terms of textiles that come out of Bangladesh, and how that's celebrated in this country as well. So that was one of the reasons why we put the Jamdani sari in the exhibition. As you can see as well, the entranceway was full of garlands as well, and the exhibition very much had its own identity. You can just see on the back wall the banner, which was actually a fusion of Bangladesh and South Shields. On the left-hand side, there were like key icons from South Shields, and on the right-hand side, there were sort of key icons from Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh. So I just wanted to highlight just a few of the really interesting objects that we eventually found that had some really great stories to them. A lot of them were donated by members of the steering group or their family. So on the top left is a passport that was one member of the group. It was her dad's passport. He actually came, and it sort of chronicles the journey of a lot of British Bangladeshis. They didn't initially come to Britain. A lot of them came to Europe first. So this is actually a German passport he had. And then her father eventually, came to Birmingham first and then ended up in South Shields. So we thought that was like a really lovely object to help document like his journey to South Shields. On the bottom left, there's a quite a famous road in South Shields called Ocean Road, nicknamed the Curry Mile. A lot of Bangladeshis ended up working in the restaurant business in South Tyneside, not initially, but have ended up there. And these were placemats from one of the first restaurants on Ocean Road, called the Monzel restaurant, that again we've got the option to permanently acquire these if we want. In the bottom middle, this sort of steel-looking object it's the same. The man who's the passport belongs to, he acquired that from Babcock International, where he worked when he first came to the UK, and I think there was a bit of a debate going on in the group. Like the daughter said that it was part of an aircraft, whereas the son said it was part of a ship. So I'm not sure which part it is, but the father brought it home, and the mum ended up using it as a garlic press. So it was this like really important part of machinery that sort of ended up being used for, and each member of the family had a piece of this machinery that they sort of use in like everyday use in the kitchen. In the top middle, the pair of boots were one of the issues we had was a cultural and religious issue, was when people had passed away, we weren't really allowed to use photos of that person, this she was a really key member of the community. She set up a really important organisation called Crest in South Tyneside, which was about giving people who had recently migrated to South Tyneside like support and advice and guidance to help them have a life in South Shields and a happy life, and mix with other people and network and give them language skills and training opportunities, etc. And she was a really loved member of the community, but unfortunately passed away during lockdown. But a member of the group told a story about, you always knew when Shuli was in the house because she used to kick off her boots. And we just thought that was a really great way, like a really happy way of remembering someone that had been such a key member of the community. The mortarboard is from a Bangladeshi artist in the community who calls herself an artivist, and we just really wanted to represent artists from the community. And on the bottom right is a pair of gloves from there's a world champion cage fighter in South Tyneside who has his own gym. He's won about 17 different belts, and he kindly loaned us his gloves. Again, there's something that we can keep in the collection, but we've got a pair of signed gloves from Muhammad Ali from when he came to South Tyneside, so we thought they could really nicely go alongside that, you know, when we acquire them permanently. Alongside the exhibition, we had takeover days, which we thought were really, really important, because this project is kind of like a springboard. It's a starting point to have that ongoing exchange and dialogue with the community. So we thought it was really, really important to have other activities around the exhibition, and the group wanted to have some takeover days, and it was great. We were supposed to have one, but we ended up having two. In the first one, we had over 720 people from the community come to the day. And on the second one, again, because of the challenges of the summer, it happened right at the end of the summer. But amazingly, we still had like over 500 people come to the event, and it was on bank holiday weekend as well. So it was a really great way of, you know, kind of saying, you know, this is your community too. And it's what's great is that people are coming back. I'll show you some of the evaluation afterwards. People are really, again, I think Helen touched on this with her project. People are seeing the museum as it's theirs as well. And I think the exhibition's really helped with that. And it's been a great experience for the staff as well, because they've never worked that closely with the community as well. Everyone's on first name terms, and it's just been a really great unifying project. So yeah, just briefly, what we learned was, you know, you have to build up that level of trust, and you know, I can't emphasize like really taking the time to do that. The links are much longer term. Again, I've already mentioned about, you know, the concept of an object telling a story took quite a while to embed with the group, but I think we've got it now. And the group were really, really instrumental in making this project what it was, and really getting those stories and getting people to donate the objects. They were sort of our ambassadors, and we paid them for their time, which I think is really, really important. I think in the past we've relied too much on people's goodwill, but I think it gave people value, and it also, I think, made people like really help and work with us on the project and to see themselves as part of the organisation. We gave them name badges. They had similar privileges to any other member of staff as well. So I think, you know, that's really, really important. And really think about religious and cultural differences as well if you're doing a project like this. There was no way around it, but we had to do the call out for objects during Ramadan, which obviously wasn't very, very successful because people's minds were on fasting and you know, the celebration of Ramadan. So you know, it just meant we had to work a little bit harder to sort of actively go out and seek those objects. And there is a bit of a challenge about turning temporary loans into permanent donations, and how, you know, again, you know, how it fits in with your collection policy, and, you know, like how you'll use the objects in future. We also collected lots of oral stories from the elders of the community as well, which is great because there was a real fear from the community that their stories would be lost when those people were no longer with us. And this was just some feedback from my steering group, not visitors to the exhibition, but just the steering group, about how it's made them actually feel like part of the museum community, and that the museum wants to represent them. You know, going back to what Elspeth said, it's about, you know, museums need to be representative of our communities now and our society now, and not the Victorian past. And this was again, you know, kind of what we want to do in like moving forward. This again was another member of the community about, you know, wanted to make permanent change. Now we've made temporary change, and moving forward, you know, the idea is that we make permanent change and we carry on working with these partnerships. And that's it. Sorry, I hope I haven't gone over too much. But I'm happy for any questions as well, and to pass on my email if anyone wants to know more. It was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the project.
Oh, thank you all so much. Thank you, Alina. I think listening to that really reminded me of a presentation I heard from Sandra Yeaman from the Hunterian last month, who said that for true participation, you don't know what the outcome is at the big, you know, you have to find it. And I think what you've demonstrated is how well that's worked in terms of developing that exhibition and demonstrating actually what the museum is for and what it can become and what it can do for the community. So yeah, that was a really nice kind of example for me personally to join those two dots. So thank you so much. It is a very tough ask, isn't it, to present a contemporary collecting project in 5 minutes. I think I've given you all something impossible. And so I haven't wanted to rush, but to kind of enjoy listening to the things you've had to say.